Hello. So today we have a special guest, Sander Nasi. Hello, Sander. How are you? Can you tell us something about yourself?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's nice to see that we finally got to do. Unfortunately, we had a few complications with time schedules, but we are here as promised. Most of you would probably know me from the previous podcasts from the Cult of Belial and from Dark Sorcery with my collaboration with Mr. Martinez. Basically, I have been involved in the occult for the last 6.5 years now, so to say, in very controversial ways. For those who have seen previous stories, it basically, I'm one of the few cases within the community, I can say, because I've tried to find others as well, like me, that did not actually choose to be in it, but were more like, how to say, taken in by the spirits themselves after they made the dramatic appearance and brought into this. It's been a very controversial journey with a lot of ups and downs and many changes, of course. I never thought it would actually bring us to this point that we are today. So, all in all, it is a life-changing journey from beginning to the end, I can say.
Okay, so can you tell us how it started? Because a lot of audience is not familiar.
Oh, long story short, it started in negative ways, to be honest. I started randomly being approached as I used to be with I was in a relationship with a girl, a Slavic Polish witch at the time, and she told me openly what she's doing. Now, at the time, I personally had no solid belief in this particular system. I just thought that it's just a little hobby, I didn't see it as something evil, and I never saw it as something to be worried about. I just saw it as a little hobby that people could do. You're not harming anybody, and if you like it, do whatever you like. I never discriminated anybody for these kind of activities, even if I was never involved with them or believed in them strongly, to be honest. Although I had seen things before I ever got involved with the occult, of course. I've been in places where negative energies, of course, have taken place. I've served twice for two military special forces in two different countries in Europe. So I've been in places that negative energies, of course, were gathered highly, and everybody has seen things there. And of course, all these people who have seen them are not involved in the occult. So we cannot call 300 men crazy at the same time. Um, Basically, we randomly went into a particular library, which is rare because I never really read. And it so happened that while we were looking for, well, she was looking for books, to be honest. I randomly started looking for at a little corner when you have there was a big shelf, and like on the bottom there was only like one corner that seemed to kind of have books that were altered, and as if someone was trying to hide something. So I went there into that little corner, which was at the very bottom to the height where your feet would be, and I picked up a little black book and I looked at it, and it turned out that it was LaVey's Bible. Now, I didn't even really know who he was at the time or what that is, but for some reason, something made me find it, which years later I found that it was a spirit involved, of course, pushing me there. And I wasn't, of course, able to understand and perceive energies at the time, but I could feel it's something weird, something's going on. I was like, this feels weird. Something is urging me and driving me, and it's not, clearly me. I could kind of understand this, but I also couldn't understand that there is spiritual forces involved, of course. So I took it, although she was urging me not to. But I saw it as a joke, and I just wanted to tease her a little bit, to be honest, because she was like going crazy. She was like, "This thing is bad. Don't read it." I was like, "Look, nothing is gonna happen. These things don't really exist." Okay, so I read the whole thing just to prove a point. And then I got to the part where it has these Enochian keys. Now, this is what actually triggered my at the time part very bad as well, and I was told not to read them. So I said, "Look, nothing's gonna happen." I read them, and the page started, the letters started having, as they were black, They started getting a big red aura around them, flashing in front of me. But I didn't pay attention. I thought I'm just, seeing a bit weird because I was tired from work and training, and I was very heavily actively boxing at the time. So I thought it's, I'm tired. I've taken a few in the head, and I cannot see correctly. I closed it and I finished it, and then nothing particular happened until 3 days later, approximately. I just went into bed, and a proper shadow warp appeared on my ceiling and started warping and circling, and then it fell down like a big mass, boom, and then it took shape, and then it took the shape of a man with a little beard and small horns, and he was relatively short, I would say about 155, and he had goat legs, but it was like a black shadow that was darker than the dark, very 3D, and you could see it as clear as day. It was almost like black shining light, the way it was. And the room got extremely thick, of course, and like it felt very, very heavy, very bad. It was almost hard to breathe. And you could hear him talking chaotically in your heads, but you couldn't really understand what he's saying because he was talking very fast. So all in all, that spirit ended up basically, well, I have tried to ignore it, to be honest, because I didn't want to believe what I'm looking at. I just thought, this isn't real. This isn't happening. I'm having a bad day. I tried to turn around and ignore it. And then I felt his claws literally touching me here. And that's when I was like, shit, it can touch me. And I didn't think they can actually touch you. So all in all, I said, I'm just going to ignore it. It's going to go away. And then in 3 seconds, I passed out once again. And that's when it appeared, and we had a little chat, and it left. Now, after this, I was very questionable about what happened, to be honest. Even though I saw it, I experienced it, I still was kind of in denial, because it's very difficult to break away from what they've taught you that is real in this life, and what you must believe and what you shouldn't believe. So it's pure indoctrination from a young age, from since you're a child. You're supposed to believe a certain way. You're told you come from a certain place and you have to follow a culture. Everything is guiding you to be something that, you have to be just like everyone else, of the place you come from, of the world you live in, etc. And then I kept being approached in different ways by particular spirits with visions. Like, I could pick up a random box of food, and there was like the word BE there, the letters. And then it turned into Belial, and then I was like, what? And then I blink, and then it goes back into normal. And these things kept happening, but I was just trying to ignore it, because I was like, I don't want anything to do with it. And eventually it got to the point where Lucifer approached me. Now, I did not know that after I finished reading the book, there was like a particular weird feeling that I started feeling, as if the sun had entered the room. Very, very warm, very, very soothing, that kind of way. You know the feeling you get in the beach when you're chilling in the sun and you're like, ah. But I couldn't realize it was him. Little did I know back then he was standing right behind me. But of course, once again, I was completely oblivious to what's going on, so I never thought of turning around. I might or might not have seen him. It could have been energy. I don't know, because I didn't turn around. I can only verify he was there, but I'm not sure when it comes to physical stuff. I didn't turn around to see. Now, he approached me once again before I wake up. And literally the second, the stages where you're just like about to wake up, and you're like still with your eyes closed, but your mind just activated, and you're about to open your eyes. That's the stage where he tends to drag you back in. So before I managed to wake up, it was like going out of water. It drew me back in again. So I was like, and then I ended up in a white world, and he was there, like I think naked, but I couldn't see anything. Like there was light covering everything. I couldn't see him at first. It was nothing but light, golden light. I was blinded. So I was like, what is this? And then when you focus into the light, then it got shape. So you could actually see behind the shine. And that's when he appeared. He was just standing there with his arms open and wings. He got huge, big, huge wings. Very, very long, like 2-meter wingspan, or for one wing only. And he was just standing there, topless, with abs and everything, like very, very lean, like not unnaturally big, but lean abdominal structure. And he tried to speak to me, but I was once again in denial of speaking to him. And because of that denial, then a very bad fact came about. I actually ended up being attacked with my partner on Valentine's Day by three addicts who basically pulled out a 30-centimeter knife and tried to kill us both. So I ended up trying to have to fight them away and trying to save the partner that was with me as well, because she had a purse. I didn't have any money because everything was booked that day. I had a restaurant booking, so you didn't need anything. Everything was prepaid, and they just basically welcome you at the door. You come in, you give your name, you know how it goes. So at that night, I was hurt, of course, with a weapon, and I spent 5 days in hospital. And in that hospital, of course, the manifestations went absolutely crazy. They would appear to me every night. I mean, I'm talking about the very first one who came was Asmodeus with King Paimon, the very first night that I was there. And they appeared as their sigils in the dark, in dream states. And they literally just loud started having chats with me. And then it was Belial. And then they kept on coming and coming and coming. And mostly Belial and Asmodeus at first, until I made a choice to go under a path working and decided to put everything on the side and try and figure out what happened, because it got to a point where I didn't know what to do because it wouldn't stop. So they connected me. Somehow they brought someone to me who got me in contact with other different spirits that I wanted to get information from. I ended up going to Archangel Raphael to ask for permission if it is accepted for me to work with the dark side. And because he said yes, that's the only reason why I went on with it, and I am where I am today.
Okay, so can you tell us about your experience where you were in the military and multiple people saw something really fucked up?
I'm not exactly sure if this is what we call the shadow people, but I know that there are many spirits around the world of the dead, which, of course, the underworld system, as far as I know so far from Queen Hecate, I like to call her Hecate, which is the ancient Greek name. She prefers that. The origins of the belief is better to be used. The dark spirits of the necromantic world actually have this particular duty to be running around the world and to putting some order between these particular shadows that are randomly running around here. Because imagine if the entire underworld was unleashed, we would have tremendous chaos coming out here. People are already affected by dark energies badly all over the world. They don't even realize it most of the time. That's why our world is a little bit more darker than it should be. And they're actually helping with keeping the balance. And these souls are dragged down into the underworld, and they find a particular place where they will be serving under. Now, when it comes to these places, if you go there, you do not need to be open in senses. You do not need to have some kind of a professional Kundalini background to be able to see these things, because of the tremendous amount of negativity that has happened there. It kind of accidentally even opens portals, okay? Because negativity stays. It's like concrete. Once you put it on the wall, it ain't going nowhere. It's going to stay there. So it won't be uncommon to go into places like this, and you will casually, let's say, go to your little self-made barrack toilets. And there you will see the shadow of a man who will come down from a wall. That was my very first encounter, personally. Before that, I had never asked anybody else if they've seen anything, because nobody speaks of these things down there. Most of the time, people don't speak in this world much about anything. We are very centered around the job mostly, and that's mostly the point of discussion, because the job is the lifestyle. You live in the job, you wake up and sleep in the job. So what happened to me is this shadow man with a hood came to me, and he stayed there at the wall in front of me. And I was like, what the hell? And then he just casually, very slowly, almost like a focus, like Matrix when it goes slow. He turned around very slowly, like, and just looked at me. And then he just flew off, but he didn't do anything to me. Funny thing is, I started getting visions of him, how he was when he was alive, and him walking around and what he did in his life. He was not a good person, of course. I saw what he did. And that's why probably he ended up as a shadow figure running around the world. And then I talked to the men, at least those who were close to me, of course, because you don't go randomly talking to everybody. Not everybody is your friend just because you happen to serve somewhere and live with a bunch of people. And I told them, but they've been there longer. I was very new, and they told at the time, and they told me that this is a common occurrence. We've had cases where people were playing cards, and all of a sudden somebody was snatched, and they petrified, and they wouldn't move. And he says we literally tried to burn his arm with a lighter, and he didn't fucking move. So we were just pushing him like this, and he was just sitting there with a card like that. His eyes were just wide open, like on drugs. He was just wouldn't move. And people have been appearing with scratches all of a sudden, which I happened to experience later on working with spirits and experimenting. I couldn't understand any of these things before, or they saw them in dreams. Um, Significant what happened to me before I leave, though, with these people is that I was back in my original base and I was ready to be dismissed and leave. All of a sudden, and it was in the middle of the day, we're not talking about nighttime. I looked at the wall as I was just casually sitting there in the day, not doing it. Was free time. I had just finished up packing up some things that I had to be ready to go. And I looked up on the wall and I could see blue figures, like dark blue figures, forming. And they seemed to have these uniforms from 1830, very old, that this particular division has. I could tell from the hats, and they had the beards, which are the pioneers that they call them there. And they were all just coming together. There were loads of them coming, like on that wall. You could see them going. And I was looking at that, and I was like, what the hell? And some of them were just casually sitting, like as if on the floor with their legs up and everything. And only one of them came forward, one old one with a big long beard. And he looked at me like this, and he pointed out with his finger, and he said, now that you are going, now you will feel it. Now you will see. And then they all just disappeared. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. Whatever. But I know what he was talking about. He was talking about what comes later when you reintegrate into civilian life, and how it's pretty much I related to the werewolf transformation when you come back, which is a very dangerous stage for most people without return, of course. So he did tell me the truth. I can say I don't know if he was trying to scare me because he was dead serious, but he did give me a valid omen, a message which did come true later.
Yeah, so technically, can you tell me more how you started working with Belial consciously outside of those introductory experiences?
Well, after that incident had happened and after Raphael had said what he said, I basically said, okay, if he's saying do it, because there is no other way, you have to do it, because they won't stop. So I was like, this is not stopping, and it can only get worse. I mean, I don't know. Does it get any worse after what happened to me? Hard to say. Well, it probably could. I don't think there is a limit to the dark apocalyptic events that can happen in one's life if they decide to do so. So I said, look, if there is no escape and if the Archangel himself said it, let's go. So I knew from instinct straight away, which now I know it's past life resemblances because I have done a lot of work, which I didn't, of course, know at the beginning when I started with these creatures. So there is a ton of past life work and relations and deals that were made, which led me where I am today. But of course, like I said, when you're new, you don't know any of this. You try to make sense of it, and you will be a little bit scared because these things are invading your life and you don't know what to do. And it's not stopping. There's nothing you can do to stop it. So I said, okay, I must find a particular patron to initiate me into a specific current, and then it's gonna be kind of like wearing a uniform of somewhere where you can belong. So I thought it in my mind, you have to join a particular current because there is many currents. And as I studied and tried to learn more about these spirits, I saw that they are extremely militarized in their structures and in their ways. So I tried to find someone who would be compatible to me, and according to the spirit's attributes and character and who they are, I tried to find someone who would be similar to me. And I thought of it in the way of, if I am to pick to cooperate with someone, they have to have the same mindset as me. You're not going to cooperate with someone who you have nothing in common because you're just going to clash. And Belial kept on calling tremendously. So did Asmodeus. And there seemed to be a little bit of a semi-competition, so to say. But according to my character and who I am, I went with Belial the most because we were extremely compatible as characters, and it turned out to be one of the best path workings I did in the beginning.
Okay. So because you are like extremely experienced. So just so you know, I right now, because my brother is serving in the military, I kind of living with him, and I am living in the military barracks. Just so you know, within the barracks, you can like you have like a small area where civilians are allowed. So I am technically allowed in the barracks. I am technically in the military, but not exactly. Okay.
I think you're in the part where there's like the family is allowed for those who have
Yeah.
families. I personally never went there. I don't have any family to bring with me. I was all on my own. So yeah, that's it's actually nice. You get to see a lot of the environment and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of interesting how actually a lot of soldiers had those weird experiences where spirits, like it's extremely common in the military to have those experiences. The thing is, they usually disregard it, but it's almost always happening to people, especially during the training when people break down. Like you would have people not sleeping for a few weeks, and then they would just go into trance, and it would last 4 days, and they would be taught that they hallucinate, but in reality, some of those hallucinations unfortunately never end. So actually, it's extremely common for people in the military to see spirits and people in the intelligence service. So, kind of, how can you call and say to our audience, how do you call Belial usually?
Uh, through the work that me and the team have done, of course, we've channeled numerous ways. To be honest, in this particular point of the workings, he always is there. Like he has this little thing. He's very humorous when it comes, at least to me. Um, every time, especially in the beginning, when I was about to start calling him, you do all these big preparations, you set up everything perfect, and then you raise your sacred space, and then you're ready to go into your trance, and the second you take your breath, and you're like, let's go. And then he's like, I'm here. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And, he's scaring you like that. And I was like, damn. And then, you'd have a good laugh with him. He'd be like, it's okay, just summon me officially. And I was like, okay. um, I basically just pretty much I know when he's there. He's always with me, following me. Once you initiate under his current, he will always be with you in the beginning to get to know you. You will wake up, he's gonna be right in front of your bed. You go downstairs to have your breakfast, he's gonna be here in your living room. Many times I've seen him. He likes chairs. He has a big thing for chairs. Very nice, comfortable chairs, like this one here. Every time I used to come down here, he'd be sitting there chilling, as if it's a throne somehow. If you train, he will follow you closely. He will jump into you to empower you during training. He can actually raise Kundalini while you train and divination powers. So it's pretty much a meditation. If you use numerology, it's even more heavily boosted in what you do. Numbers of 3, 6, 8, and 12 are great to put within your training regime. The spirits will be with you, and he does this big bulking thing. He's great for body mass if you really want to get bigger. He can do it like within seconds, and it feels crazy. You literally just gonna go, whoop. And people will pick up on this energy as well. They start looking at you and staring at you from afar for no reason at all. They don't even know why they're looking at you, but subconsciously, people are way more divinatory than they know and more psychic. They pick up things like this. They just don't know that they're doing it. Um, I basically just raise my sacred space with earthly energy for him. I prefer green and energy with a black tilted aura, which relates to his Belial aspect a lot. He has many other aspects, of course, and many other elements, but I prefer this particular one. And we have also channeled evocations and evocations of him as well, which I use. If you're able to channel the vampiric language from him, this will be the heaviest of manifestations of energies you can get, because this really, really speaks to him. He's more like the vampire father, basically. He rules over the race of vampires below him, all of them. Um, so he's actually very easy to call. And for me personally, he has the tendency to do random appearances of flying around, either like a black orb or like a black shadow. And in projections during dream state, he appears a lot in different forms and different faces, but you'll get to pick up on them. And his aspects also have different specific human forms that he takes. So it takes a little bit of experience to understand who he is in projections, because he's never really the same. He always changes most of the time. And yeah, he's difficult to study a little bit, but once you match his attributes, then you will be inseparable. He is like, he will be the best thing that you can have around.
Okay, so technically, I tried a variation of vampiric sigil Anton gave me to initiate with Lilith this time, because I am heavily in work with Lilith, and it really worked. I also have experience with Belial for about 5 to 6 years, just like you, but you are only dedicated to him, so you have more experience with him. I agree that he is extremely necromantic and he works with vampires, and he corresponds to the military mafia and kinda illegal stuff, so he is that kind of motherfucker. Uh, so there is one question I would like to ask you, if you are comfortable with it, of course. So can you share with the audience some of the vampiric language you channeled?
Well, can try and tap into it right now, although I usually try to, or usually when I'm in ritual, it's when the channeling happens. But it's hot enough around here, so I'm pretty sure it can happen. Ooh, man, it's pressure in the brain. It's tense. Ooh, when that happens. And it sweats you. You got to understand, when you do these, usually it takes a heavy trance to do them. You are going to have a lot of pressure within your brain, usually the backside, because that's the back cortex where the negative memories are stored within the brain. So that's where the demon usually finds himself, usually at the back. Now, if your crown is open, you might feel it as well here on the top. So that's when you know you're really connecting, because it's going to feel like someone is squeezing your brain, literally. And you're going to start sweating as well, which is fiery spirits being in the room. If you're cold, in my experience, it's necromantic. Chthonic. Usually Hecate does that to me. Very cold, like the whole area here freezes usually.
Yeah. So technically, what I felt is you are working like a black hole while you are chanting those incantations. You pull the energy from me and from the entire space around you. Like you work like a black hole and you just push the energies in. It's really powerful. So
I can say how this happens, if I may, for the public to know. To become a human portal, to do portal alchemy, okay, where you become like an open warp and you take everything in, or you can push out. You will have to do a specific path working, which actually I don't know why I've never told this to anyone before in the contents before. You will have to work with Seth, okay, and he will take you into his desert, and he will appear in projection, which will be a very live projection. You will remember everything like a movie, and you will ask him, or he will tell you that he wishes for you to become a human portal for his energies into this world, and he will make you put your hand on his like this, and he will speak in a language which you have to repeat, and you will have a sigil appear in your hand, and then you can do this portal alchemy, which is heavy for anybody who's interested.
Yeah, I definitely will do it. Man, you are like, you and Anton, dude, the amount of shit you managed to do in such a short time, like, I know when Anton was kind of starting out, I was kind of helping him out. He probably told you we were like doing a path working with Belial to help him in life, and we did some really crazy stuff like not eating, drinking only water for days, purifying completely and shit. And the amount of shit you and him managed to do is like insane. So I usually consider myself a fanatic, so I work with spirits every day, multiple hours a day. But you guys are on the same level. You are fanatical just like I am. And I usually, just ask questions to people and let them reply in the new format. But there is something I have to say. If you don't exercise people and you do shit like this, the energy will become so heavy that the parts of your body will crack. This is not a game because our bodies, unfortunately, are not designed for this. Uh, our minds are not designed for this. And so if you train, shit will break, shit will fall apart, literally. And especially if you work with Belial, he is kind of the thing with Belial is his energy progressively grows stronger. It doesn't matter how you feel. And so if you don't train, you will be destroyed by the mere proximity of his power as his energy grows and resonance with you grows. So,
He's very
uh,
tense indeed.
can you, yeah. So, can you like tell us what kind of offerings you can put up while?
It works in stages with him. If he has so many transformations that he will give over the course of years, non-stop, without you even knowing or asking, but you will be made aware lately. Like when I started off, he would literally come in the middle of the day, and I could always feel something like, like a needle, but I could feel it here in the back of my head, now going, down, and I was like, what the fuck? And it was scratching me. And then it kept on going. And by by the end of the day, I was like black circles, half dead. I was like, oh my god. But then I would go and train, and then it would all come back. And then I'd be more alive than ever when I came back to the point where I couldn't even sleep. But I'd managed to sleep eventually, but it wasn't as difficult because normally after 3 hours of punching something, you would be pretty much half dead. But I came back and I was like, I feel great. Um, he did this for months, which is exhausting. Now, I didn't know, of course, that he's literally taking all your aura energy and recycling it and then spitting it back out to you to transform you. And this is for your energy body first. And then he will do chakra work with you. He will do shadow work with you. Your shadow will rise. What else? He will go in from within, which is extremely difficult because if you're not, I've said this before many times, people come to me and ask me about these kind of health complications that they sometimes feel, like a lot of blood pressure going up high. Belial will increase a lot of this, and it's how his energy works. And the vampiric current in general, they have it, is they're very, very tense. And when he goes from within and jumps in you to transform you, you will get such a blood pressure going high that you will literally be able to hear your own heart, and you can hear your arteries in your ears pumping here. Boop, boop, boop. So it's gonna be literally, you can feel them like a punch. Okay, so if you're not healthy, don't work with the vampiric current. It's difficult. You have to be in peak condition. Okay, I'm not in peak condition. I need 2 operations to fix me from past injuries that I have, but they are more, how to say, they're not very internal to the point where they can threaten my life if these things, happen. I take care of myself like I take care of my alchemy. I dedicate hours into my body. And that's how I managed to withstand these severe energies when I first started. Okay. Um, Offerings, personally, he wanted blood in the beginning. So I was giving it to him, but blood really acts as a conductor to gain access to a person's genetic code, to their bloodline, yada, yada, yada. And it creates the initial cord, the initial ethereal cord from your double to him. And then he will bring you into his world if deemed, and you will be turned into one of the knights. And then you will pretty much, your astral double will look like him. You have a big black armor, you have black obsidian wings. You might end up with a helmet. You will have different colors of eyes according to your energies. You can go from red to black to green. And many, many other things will change. You will have tendrils if you wanted. You can have spider legs or what have you. You can shape this armor as well. and make it go into gauntlets or different armor, different swords. You will also get to the part where your own shadow and trauma can create a sword, which is going to be your main weapon of your astral double, which is all your pain. The bigger the pain, the stronger the weapon. If you have no pain in your life, don't expect a very strong weapon. It's gonna be, how to say, it's like going to fight a dude with a sword, but you have a dagger. You know, he has a bigger one, and you are just trying to swing it around a little bit. But well, something is better than nothing when you start, I'd say. It depends on the person. Um, he really enjoys Mir. Okay, a lot of the vampires enjoy Mir for some reason. It's rare to find. Judas is another spirit that adores Mir. He also likes frankincense a lot. Frankincense incense a lot. One of the most dedicated things that I've given him, and I've made a pact for the duration of my life for this, when I first started working with him, because I thought instead of me running around and getting meat and leaving it to the forest and drawing his sigil on the ground and burying it or leaving it there for him, as he likes steaks and meats and all that, he likes to feast, to be welcomed like you welcome a king in your house. You put a nice big table, you put food, you have music if possible, like in the ancient days when one king visited another, it was a party. He enjoys all that. But I said, why not make a little offering pact, which is great if you want to do it when you start initially with him. He likes alcohol a lot. Okay. So I said, okay, so me, I don't drink, of course, a lot. I drink once a week, and if. So I said, every time that I drink, I will pick a beverage of your choice, which you like, which I also enjoy at the same time, which doesn't harm my particular caloric intake because I don't drink beers, for example, which are highly estrogenic and get you fat and give you big boobs and all that. I would mostly be a whiskey person because it has taste and class, and he also likes vodka. So if you can do this little pact for him to be invoked every time you have a bottle of whiskey or vodka, then he will love it. You will have tremendous tolerance when you drink because of him. You can have one bottle and walk home relaxed, which is good. And he's also very protective. If something happens on the street, you're probably gonna win.
Yeah, yeah. So, man, let me tell you something. I usually don't compliment my guests, but you are the most well spoken, most organized, most prepared guest I ever interviewed.
Thank
And
you.
so I would really want to have part two of this. And you have
Of
my
course.
extreme respect, not only because of your magical background, but because you had a life. You went through a bunch of different, difficult, dark things and shows. I could definitely figure it out from your face because when you have such a lifestyle, something happens in your brain and your entire facial features get sharper and like predatory, and it's kind of radiating from you. So thank you, man, for
And
being
I'm
with
trying
us.
to pull my nicest and sweetest business face.
Yeah, yeah, but here is the thing. Sharp faces are much better than sweet faces. You are
True.
sharp enough. You are sharp enough to make people respect you without knowing you. So
Oh,
it's really
thank you
good.
very much.
It's really good. So thank you, man, for joining us here. Would you like to be interviewed again for part two so I can like edit it into one video, like two parts? Because I really want to have like a longer interview with you. It's
Of
such a
course.
it's such a
I would
honor.
be honored to come back again. I know you reach a lot of people, of course. We are not very well known. And to be honest, we do what we do not because of fame or anything else. Like I personally don't make money from alchemy. Although we are with the team, we are gonna start kind of offering services to people that need them because people might be in need. And if they need something higher, then of course, according to the spirits, it should be used. It's not a bad thing, but mostly my motivation is to give people knowledge because I don't want people to go through what I went through and end up even maybe, I mean, what happened to me is very rare. It hasn't happened to any occultist who is famous that I know of, but it can happen. You never know. This path is unpredictable. So it's best to be safe than sorry and to learn a little bit from people who can warn you rather than having to risk something happening to you because you lack knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. So technically, Okay, I wanted to end this interview, but I have to say something because, like, you're such a, I don't know, you are motivating me to talk and to ask questions. So, regarding your statements that nobody you know went through that experience, I agree because majority of people who claim to be in the occult are LARPing and they never experienced anything. It's just LARP. But I had some pretty crazy, even in the beginning, just like you, I had some pretty crazy experiences. So what I will say, because like a lot of people are watching this interview and they will try things out and they will call Belial and they will, you know, fuck around with things. What people have to realize before they even start this is that spirits are real. They are as real as anything else you perceive. So if spirits are not real, then nothing is real because they kind of explain to you that nothing is real. As you see it, it's kind of one of the big points of theirs. But regarding those entities, the thing people need to know is that the energy they have is heavy. The energy is extremely dark. And so when you work with it, if you take too much at the same time, shit breaks down. Now, what is really important for us to understand when you work with Belial is that there is no such a thing as I am not guilty. When the shit happens, you are guilty. So when you call them, their energy behaves according to the natural principles of that energy, right? And people are not aware of that. They have their own preconceived notions. And then when that destructive energy starts destroying things, which is what it is meant to do, people freak out and they start, going insane. They start going back to Christianity. They start this, they start that. But the thing is, what people don't understand is when spirit enters your life, it is not the responsibility of the spirit. It's entered through some form of invitation, and it is doing what it's supposed to do. So once spirit enters your life, you are 100% responsible for everything which happens. And Belial is a really big guy on that self-responsibility thing. Because one of the first things he teaches is that there is nobody else who is responsible for anything but you. And I have like something for the audience, like some advice. So I have a bunch of videos, and Sandar has a bunch of videos on how to call Belial. So I will not go into that shit over and over again to repeat raising of the sacred space and calling. So what you do is you essentially tell Belial to uh, leave the spirit of his legion in your house, right? And what do you do? And so I will explain the rationale behind this, because like let's say you call Belial to do something. Belial personally doesn't do it. He has his own men, his own boys, and they do the thing. So by letting legionaries stay in a house, you are essentially, how can we say, you are kind of cutting the middleman. And so you give offerings to the legionary. You get the sigil of a legionary, you get the chant of a legionary, and the legionary has a certain set of tasks and things he's supposed to do and teach you. Now, you give offerings to the legionary and you give them in a really large amount, right? And so it becomes a portal in his reality, and legionary will start doing poltergeist activity, doing physical shit. And that will essentially exemplify your work with him to completely new degree.
And scare
And
all your
also,
neighbors.
yeah, but
It
fuck
affects
the
people
neighbor.
around you too, though.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
gonna
yeah. But
they're gonna be starting to panic everywhere.
yeah, I have deep experience with that. Yeah, some of the military personnel can panic too. People are not accustomed to this shit, no matter what their job is. This is universally terrifying. So the thing is, like, this is kind of the last thing I will say, and then kind of will close this. Yeah, I will let you like say whatever you want to say, and then we have to close this because we are entering 45 minutes. But the thing is, with all of this, what is really important is that those spirits they use their own energy, which is pulling force from a particular current. And every time you ask them to do things, you are fucking up the balance with the universe by spending the energy of a particular current. And so you have to give the energy back, right? You have to give it back and you have to pay them back in a way. So giving offerings is extremely important. And really overloading things with offerings. People say this is worship, blah, 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 blah. So I have answered to those people. So let's say if somebody fixes you the roof and you pay them 500 euros to fix you the roof, is it worship or are you giving people money?
No, it's a
Right?
transaction.
It's a transaction. So if you are asking something from the spirit and then you pay the spirit in a literal sense, it's not worship. You are not bowing to the spirit, you are paying them money. It's like saying, I am paying a mechanic, therefore I am worshiping a mechanic. It's completely nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
Nothing is for free in this world or the next. Angels
Yeah,
don't work for free either. They will ask you for some kind of devotion or favor. Of course, it will not be life force from you. They don't do that. They actually will take offense when you ask them, "Do you want any offerings?" And they get angry. But if you mean it in a humble way, then they come down and they're like, "But they are, of course, appreciated." Because I always wanted to give them something, as a good token. I never wanted to just say, "Oh, give me this," and then ciao. I don't work like that with anybody, not in this life or in anywhere else. But they
yeah,
will ask you for different devotions. You will have to help people without any exchange. You may have to heal others, things like that, of kind nature mostly.
yeah. So can you tell us, because you are too good for me to end this interview. Can you tell us like how your work with angels, like how it goes, how it functions? Because not a lot of people put up.
People neglect the essence and the vitality of light work because I want to say I'm not a Satanist. Okay, I'm an alchemist. There is great difference. I don't run around seeking to spread destruction. I don't hate religions. I don't hate God. I've seen him. I think he's a cool dude. Uh, although he's a bit scary when he jumps in and rips the world open while you're working on your laptop. Um, it is vital to balance yourself because you can be as strong and as attuned to these dark energies, okay? But there is always a limit. How can we compare now these dark energies to the feeling of what you will be experiencing? Imagine the most horrific thing you've ever seen happen to someone. You go out on the street, you saw an accident where someone lost their life and they were in pieces, for example. That will hit you bad. That will change your life forever. You will never forget what you saw and what happened. Or someone tries to do something to you. They get this close, but you are left scarred and hurt forever. Emotionally, physically, you name it. Things happen to people all over the world. Now, the thing is, that's where the catch is. Are you able to live with it? Are you able to go beyond? Or will you let it self destroy you? If you are able to go beyond, which there will be a phase of destruction at first, of course, we are all human, but you must heal next. That's when you will show the universe that is watching that you are an intelligent being and can go beyond this particular dark point rather than let it consume you. You can either take that experience and use it to your benefits to transmute yourself, or you can let it eat you up and destroy you, and you will become, I don't know, a raging alcoholic under some bridge or somewhere. Happens to many people. Most people don't survive these particular dark tests. So you have to consider if you're strong-minded enough to be dealing with dark energies, because this will take a toll upon you. There will be anxiety, which you're supposed to be able to handle and calm yourself down and bring it all down so it goes away daily on the regular, because these spirits randomly visit. They don't ask you. They don't knock on the door and say, "Hello, can I enter?" They just boom appear. And these energies will take place and if they're toll upon you, you will be drained. You can be vampirized by their presence alone, even if they're not actively vampirizing. Okay, you can have extensive aggression growing because they can affect your hormones as well. They can affect biology, they can affect DNA, they can change it. If you're able to look into your DNA, you will see their energy spores left into you through visions. So make sure that you are very, very strong-minded, or at least make sure you know yourself. Be self-aware and know that you can take it. If not, leave it. Now, you will need eventually to balance yourself, even after 5, 6, I don't care, even 10 years. You would need light work eventually to balance, damn it. And this light work, the solar energy, will revitalize you and bring you back to life. Because if you're doing something heavy that can take years, like crossing the abyss, crossing the tunnels of Seth, crossing the desert of Thaumiel, which is the worst thing that can happen to you as a test, the most painful of all. Having passed different tests, of course, where it's going to be tremendously difficult to survive down there, and if you start losing, let's say, arms and legs, your soul lost huge pieces that were consumed. So it's a gamble. So you have to be, ready to gamble. It's like a game, it's like a wipeout game. Who makes it, makes it. Who doesn't make it? Food for the fishes. So be very careful and know yourself. If you cannot, leave it. Okay. Now, this this is life force, the solar energies of the angels. You will need them to transform you for the sake of balance, because this is one of their roles for people who work with dark energies, to help you rebound and balance back again. They will cleanse away this heavy darkness, negativity. They will bring you to a state where you are stable. They will make you feel full of vitality, full of life. Your face will shine and will change, which will add to your magnetism alchemy if you're working with the likes of Lilith or even with Lucifer, who, in my experience, for men, works way better for magnetism rather than Lilith. Lilith can help you understand women much more emotionally and their minds and how they work, because they use both parts of the brain at the same time. We only use one, one for speech and logic, the other one for emotion, or one after the other. So it's normal that we don't understand each other often, but Lily can help with this. Now, Lucifer is extremely magnetic when it comes to glamour. You walk into a room and you shine like the damn sun, and they be like, ooh, everybody will look at you, even straight dudes, and they won't even know why. Not in a sexual way, but they kind of have this, eye catcher. He has the eye catcher effect to everyone. He uses angelic seduction, as I call it, which is, of course, forbidden. But he can teach you this. If you work in a business or in an office, this is extremely valuable. And it's a weird mixture. Like one of the biggest one of the biggest experiments I did was to invoke huge amounts of the Goetia in one go, with Solomonic ways, not forcefully, of course, just an invocation for transformation. I don't burn sigils. I've only done this once to a spirit, and things started going off the hook. So I kind of said, okay, I was in the rights, of course, and then I was given justice by Belial and Lucifer, who stepped in, and we solved it. But don't do these things as an experiment. And if you're not at an advanced level, it's dangerous. Don't go there. You invoke then the 72 after you have invoked the Goetia. So you literally have the 72 on one side and the 72 of the light on the other side. They will not clash for the sake of your transformation, but it's going to be the weirdest energy mix you will ever feel. It is like, how to say, from within, it's very dark and heavy. From outside, so light and calm. And it's such a gray mixture in between. I've never felt that before, because I always try to keep energies separate. I would cleanse my space with solar energies if I bring angels in, and then I kick that out, and then I bring the dark ones in. Of course, if possible, I would have 2 different chambers with altars where I can have one dedicated to each, one for darkness, one for light. But I don't have such luxury, so I kind of have to kick one energy away, bring one another. But I've only done this once to mix them both to such an extent. But it is tremendous. The energy you will feel, your aura will rise very, very high at the same time as well. You'll be able to see it if you focus on it, to look at a mirror. It just goes, and it will have effects. Like this happens to me now when I train. I always check my aura, and it goes as big as a punching bag, very tall, literally up to here.
Yeah. So, okay. So, such a good interview, and I hope I wasn't interrupting you too much. You had experience and everything to talk.
Oh, sorry. I can give you one hack for what you said, because you said for the Legion work. Instead of working with all the legions, which is complicated because there's going to be thousands of them, you don't know how many there is in each legion. Spirits can merge. you can actually ask for one sigil of the merged spirits and work without one only instead of having to call everyone separate.
Yeah. That's possible too.
It's much easier.
Well,
Saves you time.
yeah. So thank you. This is like a really good advice for the audience, man. You throw a bunch of good pieces in here. I really enjoyed having you on the show, and we will definitely have part two. We will talk about when we will film it. I am really sorry for missing the first appointment. To be
Oh,
honest, I was like doing rituals all night, and then I woke at 8 a.m., but I went to bed at 6 a.m., and so I slept 2 hours. And then I went accidentally to bed about 8, and then I woke up right now in
that's
about an
okay.
hour ago.
Life
So,
gets in the way all the time, of course. We all have things to do. I
yeah.
work for a global social media company that keeps me on my feet all the time. And due to the transformations that I do, I never sleep in the day. I sleep 6 hours a day for years now, and I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. So, talk to you soon, man. This was a really badass interview, man. We will talk about when we'll record part two. And
Of
just so
course.
you know, this will not be published immediately. This will be published like every week. I will publish one interview, so this will probably publish in a few weeks, but it will be published. I have you.
All good things come to those who wait. It's no problem. Thank you very, very much. I'm honored for that you had me. And of course, as always, rise and conquer.
Yeah. Arise and conquer to talk to you soon.
Take care.